Hello Gemini, welcome back to the channel and welcome to your 2025 Astroclock. Here we are in the new year and I'm so excited to be doing an Astroclock again. I decided to stick with them again this year and I just had a feeling that it would be good to continue with the Astroclocks. After all, they are so unique and they're pretty successful with you folks, so I decided to continue with the Astroclock. And if you're new here, Gemini, welcome. I'm Leila, the Lenormand reader, and I focus and use this amazing Lenormand deck. I have a few links for you if you want to explore and master this amazing deck. So you're going to see, Gemini, that the Astroclock is a big spread. It uses the whole deck, and so all of the cards are going to be on the table. All the good cards, the difficult cards, the neutral cards, all of it is on there. What makes your Astroclock unique is the combination, and you'll see that we have 12 groups of 3 cards. That is 12 groups for the 12 months of the year. So let's get right into it, Gemini. Let us deal your Astroclock and see what 2025 has in store for you. Okay, Gemini, here is your Astroclock. As you can see, it's a big spread, and I'm just trying to get everything into view without zooming out too much. And so we've got these 12 groups of 3 cards each. That's because the Lenormand deck is 36 cards, so it divides up nicely into 12. And that's 12 months of the year. As you might have noticed, I start dealing the cards at midnight, but I start reading at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock is January, and we go around the clock clockwise all the way up to December. So before we get into the month-to-month, Gemini, I like to get an overview of the Astroclock to sort of locate some of the main cards or the standout cards, like the very challenging cards, the very bright cards, to sort of get a sense of where it's all at. So noticing the sun, the beautiful sun in here, the key with the whip, the key actually helps lessen the impact of the whip. We have the lovely clover. I'm picking up a bit of well, maybe that's too many months, but that is like 5 months into an ending here, possibly with the beginning into an ending. Maybe that's too many months to span a change. The flowers is a bright card, but it comes with a snake. So actually this is going to be a cautionary note. The clouds and mouths are a bit challenging. The star is lovely. Okay, what about people cards? We have the man in January, the woman in November. We have the dog in March. It doesn't seem to be too focused on people. We have the ring here, which is with this questionable snake. The snake is a challenging card when it comes to people. And we do have, we have the change cards here. Yeah, I'm suspecting a change in here, possibly a big one. We have the stork with the mountain, the road with the child earlier. This is looking like maybe a trip or a new venture. So this is going to look like it's exciting. I'm getting a sense, Gemini, that the year is pretty even. I'm not seeing any standout months or a concentration of cards around certain months. Of course, when we go over the Astroclock after going in detail, we could get a slightly different picture because the details help. So let's get right into it, Gemini. We start off with January here with the man, bird, and house. So obviously this is a relationship that's in focus, whoever this person represents. And the bird and house, I often take to suggest an announcement, but with the person, it's probably more of a conversation. I think here you could meet someone or have a visit with someone. It could be something like an interview or some kind of negotiation or a conversation that needs to happen with this person. The house is often about home and family, but it doesn't have to be home and family. It could be the job or some other office or some place. So if it's personal, you probably have a visitor at home, or perhaps you visit someone, or maybe someone stays with you. And if it's something that's not home related, it could be an interview with someone, a meeting with some other person in some other location. So it's pretty flexible, but these cards are pretty neutral. So they're neither positive nor challenging. They are just highlighting the focus on this person and a conversation with them. Now, the anchor with the road and child in February is a pretty exciting triplet. We have the road after the anchor, which suggests that you pick up and leave, and it opens up a new direction. There's a new path, a new chapter. So this can be pretty exciting. In March, we have the dog, fox, and lily. Now, the fox can be tricky with people, and the dog is a card of friends, because the fox can be deceptive, selfish, self-interested, and someone who's a bit of a user, if you see what I mean. And so this can put into question a certain person. I have to say that the exact opposite here in September, we have a similar idea. We have the ring and the snake. And the snake is more toxic than the fox, but it still has that idea of someone deceptive and someone whom you can't trust. At the same time, Gemini, the fox and lily can bring up work, and let's get this closer. And the together with the dog, it can mean a job or a customer, or perhaps you are starting out in a certain field. And this builds nicely on the previous month where you're starting out. Why do I say that? Because the dog at work tends to be a junior, and the fox is also an employee or a job, and the lily is about career. So these three cards work together to suggest that you could be starting out on a project or on a job, or maybe you've got a new customer and you're learning and things like that. Again, the cards are more or less neutral. The fox can be a bit negative, but I do think that it builds nicely on the previous triplet here. Now, the sun with the mountain and stork, that's in April. This is a very exciting triplet because we have the sun, which is one of the brightest cards of the deck, and the mountain and stork points to freedom and travel and a sense of liberation. It's like you have, I really get a sense of the flight here of the stork. Because there's a sense of elevation in the cards. So it's like you take off and you do really well. The cards can also suggest traveling, and with the sun, it could be somewhere sunny, it could be a nice vacation. So these are exciting cards that bring a sense of freedom and liberation in any context. Now in May, we have the key with the whip and book. Now that is an interesting triplet. The whip is quite a challenging card, but with the key helps overcome it to a certain extent. And also, the key and book often points to solving a riddle. And with the whip here, I wonder, Gemini, if maybe you're going to work hard at trying to solve something, trying to figure something out. So that is one way to look at these cards. In another sense, it can be a challenge, but it's a challenge that you're going to need to resolve, because the key is a card of solutions and problem solving. It also encourages you to be resourceful and to focus on outcomes. So with the book, it's about bringing something out into the open. I have to say, Gemini, that I would have suggested more strongly, if the whip were on the other side of the book, I would have suggested more strongly that it opens the book, or it brings things out into the open. But because the book is after, I think it could be still in the works. It's possible. The order can have an impact, but not necessarily. So in May, this is about problem solving and figuring things out. And remember, you've got the smarts to do this. Now in June, we have an interesting triplet because of the coffin between the clover and heart. The clover is one of the brightest cards of the deck, and it would suggest a happy ending. But at the same time, Gemini, because the heart is on the other side of the coffin, I often take this combination to suggest missing someone, or wanting someone, or wanting to be with them. So I feel that even though there's a positive ending, I still think that maybe your heart is in it and you're not, you're not fully released from it. That is possible. Or perhaps the cards are more straightforward and suggest that you are happy that you finally completed something. Now, on the other side of May, this is a welcome message, because it sounds like the problem or the thing that you were working on here in May, you're able to resolve it and you're able to close this. That's possible. And the months can be tied together, but they don't have to be. Sometimes we can, sometimes we don't have to. And sometimes both scenarios work. So you could interpret the cards to be tied to the previous ones, or perhaps they also offer a message in addition to that. So there's an ending here in June, and I think that's pretty clear. I think it's meant to happen, and even Gemini, if you're feeling still like you don't really want to let go fully, the cards are suggesting that it's a good time to do this. The Tower, Ship, and Fish in July. These are exciting. Here we're seeing the ship, which can be a card of travel. And with the tower, you could be going back to a place of the past. And the fish can mean that it's an expense or you spend on this. That's a simple way to look at the cards. In another sense, Gemini, the ship is really good with projects and sales and business, and the fish is very much the card of money. So you could be looking at some rewards here. You're seeing your efforts bear fruit. The Tower is a card of administration and official matters. So perhaps you're working through some deals or some things like that. It's also the card of the long term. So I think you could see your efforts pay off. Something that you'd been working on for some time is resulting in the outcomes that you like. So this can be a really rewarding month. And also, Gemini, it's a good idea to focus on your long-term goals. So your projects, your travels, whatever steps you're taking here, keep the long-term picture in mind, because it looks like it can affect your life over the long term and probably also other area of your life. But it looks like this is a really rewarding month. Now in August here, we have the Garden, which is a card of community and socializing. But we see it with the Bear and Cross. The Bear is often someone important or someone of influence, and the Cross can mean some important decisions. It can also suggest some difficult choices to be made. But I also think that the Cross can be a card of having to. So sometimes when things are out of your hands, we see the Cross because it's like the things that are meant to be. Now, taking these three together, a few things can happen. First, we could be seeing a meeting with someone important. Maybe you are waiting on them to decide on something, so you have to depend on their decision. Another way to look at the cards is that you are someone of influence. So the Bear is a card of empowerment, and with the Garden, it can be someone influential in their circle. So with the Cross, you could be in that position, but I have to say, Gemini, that the Cross can be a bit heavy, and the Bear is itself heavy, so there is a bit of weight here. And so you might be burdened with certain responsibilities. Maybe people are relying on you or looking up to you for something, so you have to live up to that. You have to live up to your name, and that can feel like a bit stressful, or you feel it's a bit heavy on the shoulders. But at the same time, it's probably an opportunity for you. And maybe it builds also on the previous month where we saw your projects bearing fruit. So here you could be stepping up to more responsibility. That is possible. Now moving on to September, we have the Ring, Flowers, and Snake. And let me bring those in a bit better. And these are obviously relationship cards because of the Ring. The Flowers is usually a happy and festive card, and it's a card of success all around. But with the Snake, it's not as straightforward. The Snake, like I said earlier in reference to the Fox, the Snake is a card of deception. It's a deceptive card, and it is pretty toxic. So in relationships, like with the Ring, it's often a warning of someone who is dishonest, someone who's trying to get around you in some way. Now with the Flowers, I often take the Snake and Flowers to mean someone who is fake and someone who is shallow and who is nice without really meaning it, who says nice things without really meaning them. So you could be in a relationship like that, or you could be realizing that a relationship is like that. Now to flip this around, it can also mean, Gemini, that you have to play nice and that you have to be tactful and diplomatic with people. And actually this would apply in March as well. So here in September, you want to watch your relationships in general. Let's keep it general. And then when we get to the month-to-month forecast, we'll dive more deeply into this. But just as a general advice, you want to maintain a calm front, a neutral front, and also be discreet. I would say, Gemini, I would say also avoid gossip, although I would I would keep my ears to the ground. So be tactful and nice all throughout, and also be aware that some people are playing to win. So this is a month to focus on relationships and to be aware of relationships in a closer, more careful way. And in what area of life this affects, I think this depends on your situation, Gemini. And when we get to the month, we'll also dive more deeply. So moving on to October, we have the tree with the mouse and clouds, and this could be a bit of a frustrating month, Gemini. The tree is normally a card of progress and growth. It's also a great card for well-being, but the mouse and clouds is more of a stressful combination. The mouse is about annoyances, things going wrong, bumps and gaps and things like that. And the clouds is often a psychological card that points to confusion and stress. So when we see these three cards together, I think what we could be seeing happening for you, Gemini, is that things are not moving as much as you'd want them to, or as fast as you'd want them to. You could feel a bit stuck. You could feel like things are not growing. You could feel like you've hit a ceiling. And so it feels frustrating because you're not sure how to branch out or how to deal with this. So this could be a month where you feel a bit stuck. Now, November is lovely because we have the beautiful star, and the star is one of the brightest cards of the deck. It's like the sun. It is a card of wishes happening and healing and all sorts of good things. We see it with the letter and woman, so obviously this points to some wonderful news or positive feedback, or the answers that you want to hear. It sounds like it really answers your wish. And again, these cards are broad in the sense that they don't tell us in what area this is happening. So when we get to the monthly forecast, we'll dive deeper into this. The rider with the mountain and scythe, this is an interesting triplet. I think here we could be looking at a change of direction. We saw this, I think, twice, almost, well, at least once here and here. So there are these, we're seeing three changes so far. The child with the road is a new direction, and the coffin is an ending. And then here we have the scythe and rider, which changes a direction. The moon is often a card of phases, and it's normally a gradual card, like the phases of the moon. But with the scythe, there is a change of pace, and you can't move forward as slow or as gradual as you were. Things need to pick up, and there needs to be a swift change of pace. And like most of the triplets in an Astroclock, we'll need to dive more deeply into the month to see in what area this affects. I do think that it can build on the previous month as well. So actually it's nice that after October, we have a brighter set of cards that help you overcome what looks like, being stuck. So that's a nice way to, I think, close the year, because it's going to give you momentum into the next year. Backing up to June, I do think that here perhaps the element of health could be coming into the picture. I'm thinking because the coffin is not just about endings, it's also about things being on hold, and it is often a card of health, often not too good health. But with the clover and heart, it can be a call for resting and taking it easy and slowing down so that you can feel good again, Gemini. So just backing up to June. So overall, Gemini, I think your year is sort of spread out like I felt from the beginning. I'm not seeing a concentration of cards in any area of the year. And also, a lot of the challenging cards are absorbed by positive cards, so it lessens their impact. For example, the whip is with the key. If we had the whip with the snake and scythe, it would have been a lot more dramatic. But its challenges is absorbed by the key. We have similar challenging cards that are sort of lessened by their combinations, like the snake and flowers. It can be worse with the snake, like for example with the scythe or the whip. It's really just the mouse and clouds which are a little bit challenging. They bring a bit of frustration. But I have to say, Gemini, that even though your year doesn't have these standout combinations or standout themes, it is pretty even, and we're not seeing much that is dramatic. We're not seeing big challenges. Instead, we're seeing a more throughout the year, a more gradual progress, and then towards the end things pick up a bit faster. So to recap, we have a fresh start here. We have some fresh energies here. We have problem solving in this area. We have these lovely rewards and probably a sense of growth and promotion in here that could be a bit, not so much challenging, but something you have to step up to. And then here we have a bit of a challenging energy, which sort of picks up here. So it's not like we have a whole lot of challenging cards in one area, lots of positive cards in another area. We see that in some Astroclocks. For you, Gemini, it's sort of spread out. So I think your year is going to be pretty even. It also, it affects all of the different areas. So some Astroclocks are sometimes more focused on work, others more on relationships, others on changes and travel. With you this year, Gemini, we're seeing that there's sort of all the themes that have their fair share in the Astroclock that are well represented, and it's pretty even. We're not seeing anything super dramatic. We're seeing some bright months and a usual focus on your work. So I feel it's going to be pretty even. And of course, when we get to the months, we'll get into more details. So let me know how you like this Astroclock, Gemini. I'd be really interested to know how you're resonating with these ideas at this point, so leave me a comment or two. And thank you for sticking with me this year. I hope you will continue to in the coming year as we read the forecasts, the monthly forecasts, the weeklies, and others as well. So thank you again for tuning in. Very best of luck with 2025, Gemini, and until next time, take very good care of yourself.